So last week I had the opportunity to film some trucks with my FPV drone as part of a promo video I was shooting. So I just wanted to share a few tips and tricks that I've learned along the way when it comes to getting cinematic shots of vehicles with an FPV drone. So I chose to use my DJI Avata 2, even though I had other options, as I was filming some brand new vans and trucks for this shoot. So I just wanted that extra safety of prop guards, plus the extra camera quality of the 04 Air unit, and having D-Log-M for flexibility of color grading in post. Also, being able to hover whilst talking to the driver on the phone was a big plus, and not to mention the battery life, allowing me to get all the shots I needed without having to bring the drone back to swap batteries like I would normally do with a classic FPV drone. Had it been a windy day, I might have used my unducted drones, but thankfully it wasn't. So the DJI Avata 2 was a pretty perfect drone for filming these vehicles that were traveling at no more than 30 miles an hour because of the speed limit restriction. All right, so let's talk about before you fly, safety and setup. So we had a private road to fly in with lots of wide open space, which was great. So I could focus mainly on the trucks rather than having to worry about obstacles in my periphery. Also, there was no people around so that I could fly low to the ground. I definitely would advise that these types of shoots are done on private roads with permission for drone filming, or at the very least, very, very quiet roads. Next tip is to coordinate with the driver. Before shooting, I spoke with the driver to just let him know which route I preferred him to take. And also, he let me know that there was a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. So that gave me an idea of how fast I would be able to go. And therefore I had my camera angle at 25 degrees for a medium-ish speed. I also took his number so I could have him on speakerphone in case I needed to communicate anything to him whilst he was driving. So ideal camera settings for chase shots. I was filming in manual mode, full acro mode. If you're comfortable doing that, otherwise you could use sports mode as well. The camera tilt will dictate how fast you will go, as I mentioned earlier, and as I said earlier, for this I was shooting at 25 degrees. The shutter speed I had at double my frame rate, so I was at 50 frames per second, so I had my shutter at 1/100 with an ND8 and the ISO at the minimum of 100, and I also had the white balance at 6000 Kelvin. As I mentioned earlier as well, I was using D-Log-M for color grading, flexibility and editing, and I also stabilized the footage in post-production using gyroflow. So I had the stabilization turned off in camera and set the field of view to wide with a 4:3 aspect ratio for the best possible stabilization results. Flight tips. So I wanted to get a good variety of shots whilst I was filming so that things didn't get too repetitive. So here are a few types of shots that I got. Number one, the classic chase from behind, which is a good one to start to warm up, as it's the easiest and safest, as you can just adjust your speed based on the speed of the vehicle in front of you. As I mentioned earlier, these were brand new vehicles, so I didn't want to get too close. So I maintained a little bit of a cushion for reaction time. So another shot I did was get ahead of the truck and fly towards it and over it, as well as following from the side and passing in front and around, doing a full cinematic arc and trying to adjust the yaw and pitch on my controls in a way that keeps the truck in the center as much as possible. I also used surrounding trees to fly past to reveal the truck as an extra interesting visual element. Another trick you could try is asking the driver to reverse, and then you can fly forwards as they reverse, so that when you reverse the shot in editing, it looks like you were flying backwards and over the vehicle while they are flying forwards. And I actually use this to my advantage to create a cool transition in the final video. Getting low to the ground when you approach can also make the shot seem faster and more dynamic, so that the ground proximity gives you that kind of speed illusion. So also a few quick tips for post-production. So always make sure you review your goggle footage to make sure the exposure is correct and your subject is in the middle of the shot, as I mentioned before. You could also consider adding motion blur in post for a more cinematic feel if you were not able to use ND filters, or if there was not enough motion blur to your liking. I use RSMB and it works great. Also, as I mentioned before, using D-Log-M so that you can color grade your footage in post and get the kind of look that you want. So a few mistakes that you want to try and avoid is flying too close or too fast too soon. Also, not syncing with the driver's actions, and also try not to fly too jerky and overcorrect your movements, as this can also be quite destabilizing for the people that are watching the footage. And the last thing I want to mention is I did use the DJI Avata 2, which I have mentioned in the past in other videos, is that it doesn't fly very well in wind. There was no windy conditions in this shoot, so I was able to use it and it worked really, really well for me. I wouldn't advise it if it was a windier day. I would probably advise you to use an unducted drone, as you'll probably have more control. Obviously, it might mean that you won't be able to get as close, but having more control over your drone is better, especially when you're going to be filming moving subjects. I'd also really like to hear from you guys on your experiences of doing car chasing shots or chasing any vehicles. If you have any tips or tricks or advice or any kind of cool shots that you think I could try the next time I do this kind of shoot, I'd really, really like to know. So please do drop a comment below if you have experience doing this stuff. If you're a beginner and this helped you out, please let me know as well. I always love to hear feedback. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to see you in the next video. Take care.